Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's January the 30th. This will be our chart lesson today. Really great uptrend today. Um, it's another really good trading day. Uh, my guess is I see a channel here. My guess is we're not going to turn down until we get to this upper side, and we already overshot it once. We might even overshoot it again. I don't know, but I wouldn't look for these prices to turn down. I may have this a little high. Could be right there, and we may be really close to touching it. But the fact that we didn't turn down and head to the other side from here leads me to believe that I've probably got it. That's more apt to be correct right there, and that we're going to touch it up here before we turn down. So that's what I'm looking for. And even then, we may only come back to the other side and head higher again. It could be that this trend line is really down here, and it probably is down here. Um, I originally had it up here, and have kind of moved it a little lower, but we get the most touches right across there, most reversals, and that really gave you the channel really nicely early on. So I kind of like that for the overall channel. But like you hear me say many times, you don't have to have it exactly right. You just have to be close. And as long as you've got something similar to this, you should have found most of these trades today. I'll go over each one of them. But I also want to say that, when you're trending down like this, you might consider some of these shorts, but I think traders are much better off looking, staying with the trend and looking for the longs than trying to trade these pullbacks. Now, if you're not sure that you see the channel and you've got this downward sloping trend line, you think the trend's reversed, then that's one thing. But otherwise, you got to stay away from these kind of trades because even though you'll see a bunch of them work, more times than not, you'll get trapped. Look at all the times if you'd have tried to go short up through here, you'd gotten trapped. And even still now, you may get trapped if you try to go short up here. So you're better off sticking with the trend and finding the main trend line and looking to enter, because look where all the best trades come from. They come off of these trend lines. This main trend line is where all the big moves have come from. And then the subsequent trades have come off the shorter term trend lines on the way up. So you got to find these trend lines. And once you do, that's where your best trades are going to set up. And on these corrections, generally the best trades set up when you see the trap, but you don't always get a trap. And just like right here, we never got a trap. We couldn't get below that level right there across there. But notice here, we got the trap. Here we got the trap, and that set up some really good moves both times. And if you'd caught this trap or this trap, you could have had runners that would have run for multiple points. And but anyway, let me back out a little more. We'll talk about the trades I saw, and then I'm going to wrap it up. It's not even quite lunchtime yet, but it's been a really good day. And I know I'm not the only one that had a good day because I got some emails from some other traders, but I'm supposed to warm up some here today and be in the mid 40s today, which is still cool, but for what we've had lately, it's like summertime. So I'm going to get out of here early today and enjoy the day. And but let's talk about the trades. There weren't a lot of good trade setups really till about 9 o'clock, and it's hard to be patient, watching the, and especially if you miss this trade, it's hard to be patient and watch it and wait for it to come all the way back to here, but that's what you have to do. I mean, literally, that's how you make money. When you start chasing trades and forcing trades, that's when you make mistakes. And the really good trades didn't come until we got back down to this trend line. And even then, it took it a while to really burst off again. And what you probably should have been looking for at a minimum would be after this move right here, a measured move like that, and you can see we kind of had a correction there. But to be honest, I would have probably been looking for this to be, and actually you have a measured move this and then this, and you can see that was almost a perfect measured move. We had a little trap afterwards, and then so that would have been my first look, but then I would have measured this probably as one leg and then move this over here. And so you're looking for a measured move to, guess what, right here, and we're still headed that direction. And like I said, this might be a little lower. I may have this a little bit high. It may be more like that right there. And now we've got a couple of touches. But I'm guessing that we're probably going to go a little bit higher still. And we're going to get a touch of this line and maybe even meet this target before prices turn down. So we'll see what happens. So close now, I wouldn't be taking a trade betting on that, but that's what I'm looking for to happen. And we'll look at it before we quit and see if we make it or not. But first trade I saw was around 7 o'clock this morning. And I drew this one in green because you're taking a short, but look at the EMA. It's all straight up. But this is a trading range here. And it probably at that time I would have had it looking more like that right there. And we failed out the bottom, and then we failed out the top about an equal move. And we had a failed second entry long here. So I like that for a short, thinking that, hey, we're probably coming back down here to test this. And we may have a trend line here. And of course, it was easy scout, but then it bounces. And when it bounces off this possible, I think I originally had this about like so right there. And so when it bounces right, when it breaks lower and traps everybody and turns up, and plus you did have a break of this, a little close outside, and then a new low. But that trap right there is what I really liked. And look at that reversal bar. It breaks lower, turns, closes on the very high. Just put your stop right there. It may even back up a little bit, but you can see in this case, if you weren't real quick, you didn't catch this trade because it didn't hang around. It took off, and it rocketed out of there. And you really could have entered. I didn't like entering on the failed second entry happened right here. And I didn't like entering that close up here to these highs. So I didn't mark that one, but you know, a savvy, aggressive trader probably would have taken that. It's right off the trend line. It's a failed second entry short. You know what? I'll just go ahead and circle it in green because a really savvy trader would have probably taken that trade. But this was where the entry was, and any runners would have been safe. You could have ridden this all the way to the high. So this was these are the kind, I love these setups. And there's another one over here I'll show you in a minute. But again, I didn't, and then you just kind of had to sit tight unless you wanted to counter trend. You don't want to be going long up here and all this stuff. Even with a trap, we're just too overdone. It's time for a correction. You don't know that it's going to come all the way back down here like this because this could have been a median line and we could have bounced. But I don't see any setups here that I like enough to do that. You might have went long right here, but since that's such a ugly inside bar, you would have had to wait on it to break and use a limit order. And I don't know if it would have gotten filled or not, and then you would have had room to scalp out. But that would have been the only way I would have thought about entering that trade. But there just wasn't enough evidence. If we'd have come down here and bounced off that line again and got a second entry long with a higher low, then yeah, maybe you go long. But I don't see, this should all be, this is kind of no man's land. Just sit tight and wait on something to happen. In fact, you'd be better off going short right there than going long, just simply because the market, you know, you don't buy that high without a good reason, and there's no good reason. You need kind of a trap that breaks out down here, and you just never really get set up, and then you're trending to the other side. So just, you got to be patient and just wait. And even this one, I marked in green. I originally had my trend line drawn right here, and it's a bounce off of it, but everything's still inside this little channel. That's not a very pretty setup bar, but there is a, you know, you do have some matching lows across here, and it kind of makes that one little dip lower, and it is a second entry. You're coming down, you got your first entry. There's like two measured legs there, so you know, if you saw this and you could get in with a limit order at a better price, you might take this. Even a stop would have worked, but I just think it's too aggressive because there's no break of this line yet, this channel, and you know, we've been trending downward, so you need a show of bullishness first and then a good setup. And you didn't really get that to here. Even this one, I was tempted to make it in green. If you did take this one, notice that this is, we broke lower and then turned and went out the upper side. But because this is kind of a doji and, you know, stems on both sides, you had to wait for it to break and drop a limit order. And then you would have gotten filled. So if you did that and you were able to scalp out, great. But otherwise, you just, this is still not a real good entry yet. Plus, you don't have a new low. That's the main thing. Notice that you don't have a new low yet, but then finally you break lower and you reverse out of there. Just put a stop right there. Don't play with that one. Put a stop right there because this one's probably going up here to test these other highs, and and there's a good chance you might get a reversal. And by this time, I'd kind of move this line down some, and so that's your first real break of that trend line. And it really may not even be a break because I'm thinking by this time maybe it's even down here like so. And notice how we bounced right off of that level again. So, but anyway, this was the same, similar to this. You get that little trap, it breaks lower, and that's what reverses. They trap, that creates a big trap, and it kind of reverses. It didn't really take off super fast. I mean, that's a pretty good move up to a new high. But notice the trap, and you move all the way to the new high, and you're making higher lows right here. I like going long right here because it's a second entry long. It's a failed second entry short. It really struggled to get higher there because you're finding some strong resistance. It took a little while to work through. Then you pull back. You get a failed second entry short. Notice that little move there. First entry, pull back, second entry, and that's kind of a new swing high because it was a little higher than it's kind of like a retest there. But even if you counted from the low, first entry, pull back, second entry, it's a failed second entry short. So I liked going long there. On this one, we didn't have a trap yet, so I liked using a limit order just in case we couldn't get through there. And it did kind of pull back again, but as long as your stop was down here, you were safe. And then now you got two tests of that area, and it turns up you got to go long right there. I don't think you want to use a limit order this time because it's probably going to take off. You might use a limit order, and it might have gotten filled back a tick or two in here. Definitely would have gotten filled right at the high of that last close, which is what I like to use a lot of times if we're going to use a limit order. But man, then it's off to the races. Any runners were easily safe here. And what I did, the way I exited this one, I didn't hold on near as long as I should have, but I measured this move right here, and I looked and I exited right there, and you can see it ticked one tick higher right there before it backed up a little bit. So I got out within one tick of that high right there. That was a nice move there, and I wish I'd have held on because we're still going higher now. Probably would have exited here on this break, but of this little channel working up through here. But that's how I played mine. But that play there alone gave you all the, that one runner gave you a really nice day. And if you got multiple runners, then it's just more money. So there was a failed second entry short here. I like that. You drew your trend line off those two. It pulled back, a little breakout pullback. It's like just another little breakout pullback. It's right off that trend line. Then, of course, you get another one right off that trend line again. And, when the markets, and look at that thing, it's pointing straight up. This trend line's holding real strongly. And if you'd got another bounce here, you probably would have wanted to take it too. But you get a little two-legged move back, and, you probably would have wanted to go long right here as well because we weren't up to the high. It's the first break of this channel, so you're probably going to get a move to a new high. I'd be careful here because I may have this not drawn properly. It may be right here. Since we're getting more touches there, that may be where it's at. And so we may not go any higher, but we're close to the measured move already. We may pull back down here and test this again. So, but really good trading day, really straightforward for the most part, except, and what you got to understand is that the market's going to do this. When you have these big trend days like this and you have these sharp moves, and a lot of times they're news driven, but it doesn't matter why it happened. Just you got to recognize it and go with it. But you'll have these corrections, and a lot of times these corrections won't take off until you test the trend line a couple of times, like here, or unless you get the traps like here and here. And so you got to be really careful with these traps. When you see them, I just about always take these. Every now and then it'll break lower like that and turn up, but on a strong trend day, which this turned out to be, that's where all your best moves will come from. They'll come from these traps, and that's the start of it. And then boom, just like right here, off it goes. Then boom, off it goes. And then it tried to do it again here, but it couldn't get below that trend line or this strong support area. But testing it twice is just about the same thing. But to be honest, when it breaks lower, like it did here and here, that's usually even stronger. But people recognized the channel and the trend line and what was going on by this time, and too many people were buying. They couldn't get the trap to even work. So keep that in mind. That's what I saw today. The trading lately has just been really, really good. And if you were just patient and rode this little correction out, look at all these opportunities to enter, and they're there. So learn to be patient, learn to understand what's going on when these corrections are going on, what they're trying to do when it breaks lower like that. What happens is most of your weak traders are all getting short here. They're thinking, oh, we're going lower again, and they get short. They probably go long first, and then it whipsaws them, and then they go short, and then they realize they're wrong again, and they exit, and then it goes right where they originally thought it was going to go. So you got to be real careful. If you don't understand what's going on, don't trade. Just sit tight and wait until you do understand. Wait till you start to get a trend like this that's moving up, and you can buy off that trend line. I mean, that's the safest thing to do. Is just wait and then make sure, just like this trend line right here, it's a real obvious little trend, and then you get the break, the new high, and then it corrects. So anyway, that's what I saw today. I'm not going to drag this out anymore. Really good trading day. I'll back out a little more, and you can see it. Real strong trading day. We're coming back and testing that 1800 mark again, and anytime you get around these century marks, you always test them back and forth several times. And it wasn't very long ago we rocketed through 1800, and we never played around with it very much. We just rocketed through, and next thing you know, we were like 1860, 1870 or somewhere up in that range. And so it doesn't surprise me that we're back down here around 1800, because we just went there. We went through it too easy and too quickly. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And hey, one other thing before I go, I apologize. I'm looking for some new ideas for the premium section. If you've got some good ideas, send them to me. I hadn't gotten any new suggestions lately, and I think I've probably addressed most of them. So, I want to put what you want to see in that area. So send me some ideas, something you want me to talk about, and we'll try to do a lesson on that as well. So, but anyway, going to wrap it up. This is Mac. We'll see you next time.